Hello everyone, in this case study videos we are going to analyze lobbying dataset from Washington State. For this case studies, assume that you are a reporter for a Metro Daily News organization and you cover local politics. You downloaded lobbying data that shows how much each local government agency in this state has paid for lobbyists to go to the state capital and work for their causes. You think that there is a story here, but you are not sure what it is. So first let's open this data up and take a look at how Tableau can help you figure that out. At the same time, you'll get an introduction into how Tableau works. The first thing you see on this screen is a blank window. That can be intimidating, but connecting or importing data into Tableau is easy, especially if the data is clean. That means the data has the information in rows and columns and without errors. And in the following videos, we'll get how Tableau can help us with dirty data. Tableau guides you with connecting to or importing data. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the Connect bar. The choices for the data types you can use in Tableau are listed under Connect. So the first one you see on the screen is Microsoft Excel. The second one is a text file. In Tableau, we are mostly working with structured data. A text file is usually delimited, often with tabs or columns. So for instance, if you have CSV file, which the data is separated by a comma, then this CSV file is considered as a text file. So the extensions of the files for text file are TXT, CSV or TSV. So since I'm going to open a CSV file, we click on the text file. And now you can choose the file from the dialog box and click open. Once you select the file, it will appear in the top screen and the rows and columns associated with the data will appear in the bottom screen. And on the very bottom, toward to the left, if you click on Sheet 1, you will go to the Tableau workbook where you can begin to analyze the data. So you see on the screen under Tables, there are variables with a blue sign, ABC, and a green hashtag. So the blue ones are dimensions. Dimensions are typically those columns or fields that are text or that you are not going to do math on. So the name of the entity in this case, which is local government, and the entity type are dimensions. Dimensions are typically discrete data, not continuous as in numbers, but there is an exception. Date fields are also dimensions. Another type of dimension that has numbers in it is a zip code. You aren't going to add up zip codes, but you might want to know how many times each zip code appears in the data. Finally, information that can be mapped like city, country, and state are also dimensions. The green ones are measures. Measures are data you can calculate, so the compensation and expenses are measures. Measures are continuous data. So what is a continuous data? Continuous data is quantitative data that can be measured in some way. In this class, for instance, the number of students is discrete data because there cannot be half of a student. But the age of each student is continuous data. It can be any age, which is within the range of possible human age. Tableau also adds a dimension and a measure based on the data you imported, which measure names and measure values. Measure names represents all the text fields and measure values all the fields with values or numbers. The blank canvas in your worksheet is where you display and analyze your data. And here the Show Me pane shows you the types of charts you can use depending on your data types. When you hover over one of the dimensions or measures, they will be highlighted. And I call these pills. You can click on the pills and drag and drop them to visually explore the data. So let's drag entity type to the rows and then compensation to the columns. And here also let's sort the data. You have noticed that after dragging out the pills for entity type and compensation, Tableau guessed a bar chart made the most sense. The software is smart like that, but I could also have picked a chart type. I also hovered above the bars at the top of the chart and sorted the data by clicking on the sort icon that appeared. And I hover over the bars to see how much money on each bar represented. That is the tooltip. You can try both sorting and hovering over the chart to see the tooltip now using entity type. Now just drag those pills off the rows and columns and the chart disappears. We can try building another chart, but this time we can use entity instead of entity type. Entity and compensation. And then again we can sort. So when you look at the chart on the screen, there is one important problem that we haven't talked about yet. We see the summary of rows of information, but there is a field called null here, which means in this column there is no data, and Tableau is letting us know. Checking the fields and formatting for extraneous information is always important when doing data analysis. We need to check our data just as we could verify information from any source. In this case, we don't want to have those empty fields to show up in our data, so we select the null and then choose exclude. That will exclude the null values from our analysis. Let's do different types of charts using Show Me menu, and this time let's choose a pie chart. Now you see on the screen a pie chart. The pie chart is not user-friendly because it's much harder to tell the quantitative difference in slices of a pie. If there are just a couple of slices, then it can be useful. Otherwise, it's best to avoid a pie chart. And we can choose a bubble chart, and the same issue exists with a bubble chart. Instead, we can use a highlight chart. Highlight chart can be useful and helps eliminate the problem of a really long bar and the many much shorter bars. So let's go back to the bar chart. So, which government paid the most in compensation to the lobbyists? As you see on the screen, it's the city of Seattle. But again, we have one problem here too. When we do the data analysis, we need to understand each column and what they mean. Here we have compensation, but we need to also include expenses to make a better data analysis. Therefore, we need to sum both compensation and expenses into another column. That means we need to create a new column which is a sum of compensation and expenses. We can do that by creating a calculated field. To create a calculated field, click on Analysis and then choose Create Calculated Field and title Total. And here we will sum compensation and expenses. And once your calculation is correct, Tableau is going to say the calculation is valid. And then you apply and then click OK. On the left hand side, as you see, we have a new calculated field called Total. Now let's create a bar chart, but this time we are going to use total instead of compensation. So you can see that still the city of Seattle pays the highest to the lobbyist in Washington state. Let's try to create one more chart, and this time we are going to use a new worksheet. And now we are going to get entity type, total, and this time we are going to use a tree map. So here we use the entity type to create a tree map. Let's call this tree map. And let's call this bar chart. And we can also create another tree map for entity. So in this video, I basically review the dataset that we are going to use the case study, and also you go through introduction to Tableau. Thank you very much for watching this video.